This discuss ba kanina sa classroom namin yung patungkol sa LGBTQIA+ community? Sobrang nalilito ko, ang dami-dami. Yes, alam ko yung lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. Pero, nalilito ako kasi hindi ko alam yung mga sumunod. Lalo na yung asexual. Ano ba yun, ate?
Okay, since alam mo na rin naman yung ibig sabihin ng LGBT, i-explain ko na lang sa'yo ano yung asexuality. Panoorin mo to.
Asexuality is sometimes disregarded in a world full of heterosexuals, homosexuals, and bisexuals. We are not used to hearing about when someone who claims to be asexuals. However, as asexuality is a developing identity and a significant portion of the sexual minority, we must be aware that it is not a recent phenomenon. According to the recent Williams Institute survey, 1.7% of adults in sexual minority groups identify themselves as asexual. Compared to the non-asexual lesbian, gay men, and bisexual individuals, the study also found out that asexuals are more likely to be women or gender non-binary, designated female at birth, and younger. Statistically saying, 3/4 or 72% of asexual identity are genderqueer or non-binary, while more than 1/4 or 27% of asexuals identify themselves as women. But first, let us define asexuality because we almost forgot to do so. Nicole, if you could, please define asexuality for us.
I thought you almost forgot it, Jong. Anyway, scientifically, asexuality is a sexual orientation. It is different from celibacy or abstinence. It is a gender that lack of sexual attraction to others or a lack of interest in sexual behaviors. So they are people who have little or no sexual interest, yet they can nevertheless engage in sexual activities. So some people define asexuality as their sexual orientation, while others define it as a lack of sexual orientation. But the social construct about asexuality believes that asexual persons have something wrong with them, because the world appears to believe that everyone experiences sexual attraction. So as a result, some asexual persons fear that some things are really wrong with them if they do not experience the same level of desire. However, it is not a medical issue that has to be addressed. Though these influences can form a person's identity, sexuality is not a choice. So now that we already know the definition, let us now explore the different types of asexuality. So Miss Imee, please take it away.
Thanks, Nicole. Okay, there are two types of asexual. They are gray sexual and demisexual. Gray sexual refers to people who experience limited sexual attraction. In other words, they experience sexual attraction very rarely. People who identify as gray sexual fall somewhere between firmly asexual and firmly allosexual. The origin of this idea is that sexuality isn't black or white. With that being said, there's a gray area that many people fall into, which is gray sexuality. On the other hand, demisexuality is a sexual orientation in which people are only attracted to people with close emotional connections. Basically, demisexual only experience sexual attraction after developing an emotional bond. In contrast to asexuality and allosexual, demisexuality implies a middle ground between the two. You might want to ask what factors affecting asexuality? Here's Lan to discuss it with us.
Okay, there are two evidence-based factors that affect asexuality. First is the psychological factor. According to Mental Health America, asexuality is not a mental health condition but a sexual orientation. Although in previous studies, lack of sexual desire was once considered a mental health illness, but now it is recognized as a variation of human sexuality. Asexual persons are called ace, and these individuals are accepted and validated members of the LGBTQIA++ community. The second factor would be the biological factor. There is an evidence found by Bogart years back claiming that there is a reason for asexuality, which suggests that biological pathways play a role in the development of asexuality. This means that predictors of asexuality both for men and women are health problems. The second is short stature or below average height of their peers, and the third one, in addition to women, is late menarche or the delay in the first occurrence of menstruation. Since asexuality is an underrated type of sexuality, here's Miss Jobel to offer us a frequently asked question about it.
That's right, Lance. there are two common questions that are mostly asked when it comes to this topic. First is what makes someone asexual? The answer to it is if someone who lack of sexual attraction to others or a low interest in sexual activity. Some people consider asexuality to be their sexual orientation, and others describe it as an absence of sexual orientation. You can be asexual at an early age, but like anyone else, an asexual orientation is not exclusively determined by person's history. Second frequently asked question is, can asexuals still like people? An asexual person might not experience sexual attraction, but they could certainly experience romantic attraction. Many asexual people still have romantic feelings for other people, go on dates, have a long and short-term romantic relationships. They don't generally have an aversion to sex or depictions of sex. They just don't feel sexual attraction. So, wanna know some of the famous asexual persons? Take it away, Czarina.
Representation is everything. Here are some of the famous asexual celebrities that open up about their asexuality. First, Tim Gunn said on his 2011 book entitled Gunn's Golden Rules, Life Little Lessons for Making It Work, that he wasn't interested in boys and girls. Therefore, he described himself as asexual, and that is the closest to the truth. Second, comedian Paula Poundstone discussed her asexuality lifestyle in a 2014 interview, saying that she doesn't talk about sex a lot because she doesn't actually have one. Third, American Idol alum David Archuleta said on his Instagram post that he doesn't have much sexual desires and urge as most people. He came out as a member of LGBTQIA+ community on that post while including asexuality as part of his identity. And lastly, who would have thought that asexuality also applies on the cartoon characters? Yes, one of these is SpongeBob SquarePants. Creator Stephen Hillenburg announced in a 2005 interview with the People magazine that Nickelodeon's Yellow Sponge is unasexual. For more information about the sexuality, Katrina will be sharing it to us.
There are a lot of myths and misconceptions about asexuality. First, asexuality isn't a passing fad. Being an asexual or aces, a widely used term for those who identify themselves as asexual, it is not just simply a trend or being pretentious and acting clean. It is simply they are asexual because they are asexual. Second, asexuality doesn't automatically mean zero romance or sex. A person's actions do not dictate their sexual orientation. Rather, who they are attracted to dictates their sexual orientation. One can abstain from sex but still experience sexual attraction. Conversely, an asexual person may have sex but still feel zero sexual attraction. Lastly, asexuality is not a sexual dysfunction. Disorders need to meet the criteria of causing marked distress or interpersonal problems. Besides, sexuality is fluid. One might still be in the process of discovering themselves, and that is perfectly okay.
Ooh, yun pala yun. Anyways, thanks Ate Kandice.
You're welcome, Dannah.
I don't need to make love to feel whole. Turns out I'm ace as fuck, and yes, I still feel love. I just don't feel sexual attraction, and sometimes ace gets so